I was afraid of telling someone because I thought their reaction might be nasty comments or even physical violence, because I've heard of people being victims of physical violence. I was afraid that was going to happen to me. When I'm walking down the street, I'd walk with my head down, my shoulders rounded, just to try and disappear so people wouldn't notice me, because I thought somehow they could see that I had a mental health problem, and I thought they were going to be nasty to me because of it.
I think it doesn't help that the only times really that maybe people's consciousness is raised towards mental health patients is when it's in the news and they've done something. And I think that's why it becomes reinforced in people's minds that they're either scroungers, we're either lazy people, or we're highly dangerous people. And there's no way for people to understand that we're actually just individuals with problems, with nuanced problems, who need support and understanding.
When I was doing my job, I used to be a head teacher, and when I was finding things really tough, I wouldn't share it with anybody because I would consider myself a failure. I think lots of people feel that in lots of forms of work, especially in senior management, that you haven't got anybody to turn to because you're frightened of people's reaction.
It's not going to help when you've already got low self-confidence and low self-esteem. It really impacted on the way I viewed myself, because I started viewing everything as negative, and I didn't know who I was, because if everything is a result of my illness, then who am I?
It's almost as if you can see something physically, you can react to it, but then once you've got a label, people react to that.
Yeah.
And you're not the person anymore, you're this label with this sticker on your head, mental.
It's hugely depressing though, isn't it, in its own way, to have that expectation that this is going to be people's perception of you. It's really not very helpful.
I find, even now, if somebody says to me, I haven't seen them for a while, what are you doing? I go into this spiel about stuff that I've done, you know, just to try and big myself up. And I don't turn around and say, well, I walk the dog and I cook the tea and I sleep a lot. You say, well, I've done this and I've done that and I've built this and I'm building that and I've worked for this person and all the rest of it, because that's society, isn't it? Society defines you by what you do, not who you are.
Yeah. And the answer, well, I've been fighting against my mental health problems, isn't good enough. No.
The fear of stigma and everything can hold you back from things like forming relationships. I mean, whether that's friendships or whether that's romantic relationships, because you're never sure how much to disclose. You're never sure, like, you don't want to leap in and say, hi, this is my name and this is my diagnosis. You don't want to do that, but at the same time, you don't want to hide a part of yourself either, because it does explain some things. It gives context for some of your behaviour and stuff that might seem irrational otherwise. And it's a really, really fine line. And I think stigma and fear of prejudice and things have definitely held me back from sort of forming some relationships that I might have done.
And it's also deciding who has a right to know about it, and you decide yourself, you know, whether you feel comfortable with this person sharing your experiences, and whether they're able to deal with it in a sympathetic way. And often you feel, well, I'm not sure how they'll deal with this. Maybe I won't tell them. So, you know, that remains unsaid. But it doesn't have to be like that. We should be able to communicate how we feel in the same way as we do about physical illnesses.
When I have done that, been open about myself and disclosed things to people, it's been so common that people have then instantly fed back, like saying that someone they know or themselves have the same problem. And it's such a relief for both of you to be able to engage in that conversation.
If it was an ideal world for me, I wouldn't be afraid of telling people that I had a mental health problem. I wouldn't worry about what other people thought of it. And I would be able to go and find a job and do everything that anyone else could do without a mental health problem.
And have a fulfilling life.
Yeah.
Which we don't always get.